Welcome to Everyday Linux User. This is episode 1 of How to Really Learn Linux, and today we are going to be installing the base Debian image into a virtual machine using Oracle VirtualBox. So the first thing you're going to need to do is download and install VirtualBox. Now I'm going to use the Edge browser for this because not everyone's got Chrome on their desktop. So we'll install VirtualBox using Windows, and then we'll show you how to install the Debian image. So we'll start off by downloading VirtualBox using Windows. And we'll go to the downloads option here, and we're going to click on Windows hosts. And now what we're going to do is we're going to download Debian. So go to debian.org. And you're going to click on this download link in the right hand side of the screen. And the one you're going to click is the net ISO in the top right hand corner here. So that's Debian 12.1.0 at the moment. Whilst Debian is downloading, we can install VirtualBox. Open a Windows Explorer, go to your Downloads folder, and then click on this VirtualBox. One will appear, just click Yes. And the Setup Wizard, click Next. So at the custom setup screen, you're just going to click Next. This is the default installation. It puts in the program files under Oracle VirtualBox. And then click Yes to proceed with the installation. And Yes on that message there, and then click Install. And then when it's finished, you can just click on the Finish button. The little checkbox there will, if it's checked, it will start VirtualBox straight away. If not, you can double click on the icon on the desktop. By this point, Debian should have finished downloading. So go to your Downloads folder to check, and you can see it's sitting there ready to go. Right, so if I want to create a new virtual machine, I click on the New button. Windows is slightly different to Linux when doing this. Right, so we're going to give it a name. We're going to put it in the virtual VMs. We need an ISO file. So we go to the Downloads folder, and we select the ISO file we just created. Now we're going to skip the unattended installation because we're going to do it manually. And we're going to click Next. Then you're going to give it some memory, so we're going to give it 2 gigabytes. But you can give it 4. Actually, I'll give it 4 as well. And then you can give it a certain number of CPUs. And then click Next. And it's going to ask to create a hard drive size. I'm going to do 20. And then it's going to finish. And then when I start the virtual machine, it's going to boot into the Debian setup. And you can do either a graphical install or a text install. I'm going to do the graphical install. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So all you're seeing now is the virtual machine. So select a language. So in this case English. Select where you're from. United Kingdom. Choose a keyboard layout, so again British English. Now we're going to give it a host name, so I'm going to call mine Debian Base. Click Continue. You can enter a domain name, but generally you'll leave that blank. If you're using Wi-Fi, normally the configuring network would do that, but when you're using a virtual machine, it will share the internet from your host machine, so you don't have to do that. Later on I will be doing a video on how you set up Wi-Fi and that using Debian on actual hardware. So at this point it's asking, do you want to set a root password? And if you don't set a root password, you'll get sudo working. Now, because I want to make this a base install, I'm going to enter a password. This means sudo will not be available, but that's for a lesson further on down the road, because that's part of the learning experience. How do I create a user and add it to sudo? You can create a default account. I am going to do that. So Gary and select a username and then enter a password. Now it's asking where you want to install it. In this case, you can use the entire disk. This is for a virtual machine only. You're going to select the entire disk and just continue. All files in one partition. We're going to say yes to that. We'll talk about partition in another guide. And now you're finishing partitions and write to disk. Write the changes disk. Notice that it forces you to click yes here and then click continue. And now it's installing the base system. This is the minimum you need to use Debian. It doesn't include a graphical user interface. We're going to be installing that separately. It doesn't include hardly anything. It will include the ability to connect to your network and install other packages, but that's pretty much it. You're going to get a base user. Now it's going to ask you to configure the package manager. Do you want to scan for more media? The answer is no. Click continue. And then it's going to ask you to configure the package manager, where you are in the world. I'm going to click the United Kingdom, and then which mirror you want to use. If you use a proxy server to access the outside world, you have to enter the details now, otherwise click continue. You're now asked whether you want to participate in a usage survey. I'm going to select no. And now it's asking you what you want to install. So, do you want to install Debian desktop environment? The answer, no. We don't want to install GNOME, and we do not want to install the standard system utilities. So now click continue. And then install the GOB bootloader, and then enter device for bootloader installation. Just select your drive and click continue. And that's it. Installation is complete. You can now click continue to reboot. A menu will appear. If you don't press the option straight away, it will boot straight into Debian. You can select the either option if you want, but there's no need. And here we are. This is it. This is your base install. You're going to type in your username and then the password. And that's it. There's no GUI, there's no software, there's hardly anything to do. There is an editor, Nano. And if I look at the memory usage, you can see the memory usage is 267.1 megabytes, which when you consider Windows is using about 2 gigabytes, that is quite amazing really. So that's how much a shiny desktop adds to your memory usage, and we'll get into that later on. But these sessions are deliberately short, so that is the end of this video. See you next time, where we'll be adding the sudo user and showing how to create other user accounts. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Linux User.